actual franchise resales available for November 2024. In today's video, I'm going to go through this a little different to go through actual businesses for sale, particular franchises for sale in the state of Florida. So we're going to go through options between $75,000 to $250,000 that sellers of these businesses, whether they're active owner operators or semi-absentee, fully absentee, they're not involved in the business much at all, are looking to sell the business for. It's within the range of what our E-2 visa investors are generally allocating to be able to move to the United States for their business. And what you're going to see is there's a big difference between businesses for sale, 75,000, 100,000. Generally better to just start your own business from scratch without any of the liabilities or issues from the prior owners. Create your own business culture, go with a franchise brand that has great growth and good support. And then the ones at 250 generally are producing a lot more cash flow. They should be producing money with a nice customer base. So let's go through these. I'm going to go, the cheapest options first. You have a children's hair salon for sale, $75,000, but there's minimal financials. They don't share anything about how much money the business is making. So I presume selling for $75,000, it's probably losing some money, whether it's 10K, 40K a year that the owner is losing from that business. A lot of these resales at $75,000, the owner is just going to end up closing the business. It won't sell. Now, this is a handyman business. Great offer at $75,000, but it raises some red flags where discretionary earnings, how much the owner is making, $73,000. But all these financials are reflecting the seller's projection for the second and third year of operation, assuming that it's going to be very hands-on owner operator. I'd like to, dig into actually what the owner is making, and it's more helpful to have, the actual historics, if any exist, but it could be a situation where someone bought the handyman services business, this franchise, and hasn't even opened up, or they kind of opened up half-heartedly. Maybe they moved countries or moved elsewhere in the US. Could it be an interesting opportunity? Potentially. It doesn't hurt to reach out, especially if you're already looking at that segment and you were looking to open up a new service-based business, particularly one in the handyman services. Mexican restaurant for sale. Owner's making $48,000. It's for sale for $325,000. Owner salary $17,000. He's netting $31,000. So basically like in dividends, distributions, $48,000. I don't know how many hours the owner is working in the business. It's definitely a type of buying yourself a job, and you'd probably want to see how you can turn around that business. And maybe if you already have deep restaurant experience and you're on a really tight budget, that could be something to look at. This one, you have discretionary earnings, $28,000, Fantastic Sam's. There are some quite profitable Fantastic Sam's, but last I checked, it's one of the highest default rates on SBA loans in that segment. It does have a bit of a high risk, and you can see the closure data. They basically went from 1,000 locations to probably 2024, 2025, there will be half of that. So it's a dying system. You have to ask yourself, do you want to join the franchise system, have a bunch of franchise colleagues that are, kind of commiserating together and not doing well? Or do you want to be part of a franchise system that's on the up and doing quite well? Let's look at this one, a leading provider, assisted stretching. They are losing $1,000 a year. Let's see the data source for that. So P&L statement. I would definitely want to get more information. It's great that the business is already open, already has some clients coming in, about $300,000 in sales. If you were looking at a stretching business, it doesn't hurt to see this option and see if it could fit your criteria and understand, talking to other franchisees in the system, is this scale up period general where, after a year you're losing $1,000, or is something going on with that location? Maybe the site's not good. Maybe it was just the owner and there's a good option to transition to you as the new owner to run that business. You have a sign business for sale, $100,000. Owner's making $60,000 from it. Tax returns, looks like it's pretty clean, and there's a good upward trajectory. So 2021, $340. 331 for discretionary earnings, 2022, and then 2023 about $60,000. So Discretionary earnings is basically how much the owner's making, the benefits that they're getting from operating this business. So going through, you see a lot of hair salons, which is for me a little bit of a red flag. You'll come across sometimes an opportunity like this where, okay, GNC recognized name, $100,000, owner's making $50,000 for someone moving to the United States, and it says may qualify for an E-2 visa. I could see how someone would get excited, but then you got to think, what's this franchise and how are they positioned in the market? GNC is largely selling supplements and vitamins. So they're getting killed right now by Amazon. And the numbers show where they're closing, it's again another one of those Fantastic Sam type situations where after a decade, it's basically half the size as it was before. So do you want to be buying a business that in 5 years, half the guys you were talking to at the national convention, and you're supposed to be learning from your fellow franchisees and buying power with vendors and all the benefits of being part of a large franchise group? In 5-10 years, it's going to also be halved again. That's something that you got to consider where, yes, the numbers today, $100,000, maybe you get it for $90,000. You're making $50,000. It's an easy way into the United States. But you got to ask yourself, what about in 3 years? How much are you making? What are the projections? Could you sell it for $80,000, $100,000? Could you not even sell it and you have to walk away? Or, these businesses, whether you're buying an existing business, starting a business, anything that has a physical location, like a retail presence, you can lose a lot more money than you invested because you're signing a lease. The lease is going to be assigned to you, and that could be for 5 years, 10 years. So you generally are personally liable for those lease payments if you were to end the business early. Insurance business, I don't know Sabanda. I know we've had clients in the past invest in Estrella, Univista, a few other concepts. Maybe it's worth exploring if you were looking at the insurance space. And then, pack and ship options. They're always top of mind for our clients. They like the simplicity, but usually simple type businesses have simple numbers. $130,000 you're making $10,000. You can't live off that in the United States. So some of these are making a little more money. And we have had clients that have been successful with pack and ship type businesses, but location's really critical, and not all franchise systems are created equally in that space. A Planet Smoothie for sale. They're not releasing any financials. It's for sale for $144,000. But let's look at our sister company website, Vetted Biz, and they're opening, but they're also closing a good amount of locations. Gross sales, I believe this is median. It could be average, $260,000. A tropical smoothie cafe does over $1 million in sales, so it's doing significantly less than one of its peers in the cohort. Pretty low in terms of average sales. It looks like it is growing a bit. I'd probably pass for $140,000. I just don't see how you are going to turn that into be way above the average and start making $150K, $200K to provide for your family, which in Florida, it's getting expensive here. So, especially if you're going to be the only one working or maybe both of you working in the business, you got to be making, trying to aim for at least $100,000 if you're working 30, 40, 50 plus hours a week, any of these businesses. And then a pet grooming business. I have come across some great pet franchises. We've had clients invest in the pet space. There was a big boom during the pandemic. Everyone got pets. It was a hot industry. It's cooled off since then. And the companies that have been well structured are continuing to do well, but there are a lot of players in the space that are having some issues. So it looks like this one's contract pending. It's in Broward, Florida, so where Fort Lauderdale is. These are all just pro formas. So I don't know what's going on here in terms of the sales. It's a store self-service dog wash experience. Owner is semi-absentee. You got to dig into semi-absentee. What does that mean? Working generally 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week. It's a great opportunity for a professional groomer to become an owner operator. The seller's offering this beautiful brand new store for a fraction of the $400K, which wasn't invested. Assuming an owner operator that's not a groomer, that's what the projections are for. So for this one, I'd want to know what the franchise system is to understand, is $300K, the average? Is it good for that franchise system? If you're looking at opening up a pet business, it'd be worth potentially reaching out, even though there is a contract pending, just to get more details about the opportunity. And it doesn't cost anything if you're looking to explore that industry further. Education, tutoring business. There have been some great companies, and other ones are more on a downward trajectory where they're closing a lot of locations. So for this one, owner is making $80,000 on $472,000 in sales. He's basically selling it for double that he makes operating the business. He's working about 40 hours a week, I should say, 4 full-time employees, 12 part-time employees. So it's a good fit for the E-2 visa. And even those that are maybe looking at the L1 visa or some other type visa that might have more stringent criteria in terms of the employment structure, like the green card equivalent of the L1, the EB1C. Good reason for selling is retiring. That would be a business that if I had educational experience of an interest in education, I would maybe reach out. And also you got to be interested in Jacksonville, Florida, which is a nice city to be living in. Going through a lot of fast food. If you don't already have experience in fast food, or if you haven't already run a business, know how to manage costs, know how to manage people, it can be quite overwhelming compared to like a service business where you have less things to get right. But with a fast food business, you got to manage the location, the furniture, fixtures, the people, the supplies. There's a lot to go on. Looks like a Johnny Rockets for sale. Owners making $52,000. Business runs itself as the owners are absentee. If it's that sounds that good, why is it for sale? Like why didn't someone else buy this? Why didn't another franchisee buy this Johnny Rockets location? And let's see how Johnny Rockets is doing. I love the brand, but I don't know how they're doing right now. And this is kind of a bad sign that very few people are opening new Johnny Rockets. You have, one open in 2020, 2 open in 2021. These might just be franchisees that bought a big territory and they're obliged to open up numerous franchises. So I'd be careful. I'd understand more about this location as well as what's going on with Johnny Rockets. Who is the owner of Johnny Rockets, fat brands, understanding, this company, their stock. The first thing that comes up when I typed CEO fired. So that's not a good sign. That's something to look at if you're thinking about entering that brand. You definitely want to do due diligence, talking to existing franchisees and understanding who owns the business. A roofing business, this sounds just too good to be true, making $4 million in sales. But on the other end, if you're making $4 million in sales, hopefully you're making at least $400,000. So I don't know what's going on with this business, but when you look at the discretionary earnings with this price, that looks pretty good, but something seems a little off there. Ice cream yogurt, flavored ice business. A full-time owner would make close to $80,000. You're paying $200,000 to make $80,000. Unless you're able to really scale that to 120, 150, there's going to be better opportunities for you. So I think for me, that's a red flag. But if you're just doing 10 hours a week and you're able to make $50K annually, maybe you can negotiate that price down. It could be worth looking at. I'd want to know what flavored ice business there is, because there are some great ones and there's some not so good ones out there. So definitely look into that. There's a 7-Eleven for sale. They don't work with E-2 investors. So I would say that's off the table for those that are looking to get an E-2 visa through that business. And then there's one here right in Miami Beach for $210K, is willing to sell 50% to an individual looking to obtain an investor visa. Always be wary doing business with someone you don't know, and partnerships are difficult in itself when it's with friends, family, but to have a partnership with someone that you don't know, be careful. I've seen it work out, but any business is going to be difficult. So, buying 50% of some random guy's business that you saw online might not be the best move. Daycare business after school, making $113,000. It's the top performing franchise location, has been operating since 2019 with increasing revenue and good cash flow margins. Full-time or part-time nanny services. I'm a little worried when it's the best of the franchise system. Like, why is he the best? If he was the best, is it because of the location, or is just like a really talented seller? Are you going to be able to step in and run it as well as him? Can you deal with a 20% drop of earnings, and would you still be happy running that business? it could make sense if you're interested in, providing basically an agency for nannying services. They have around 100 nannies and caregivers and are serving hundreds of families. It could be something to look at the 225K. And most places in Florida, you're able to live with 100K and support your family. Again, it's going to depend where in Florida for these education concepts. Gyms, 232,000, huge space. $12,000. I don't know. This just doesn't sound, something sounds a little funky with that opportunity to me. Again, do your due diligence, look at the individual, how much the owner makes running that franchise, but you've got to also do your homework and investigate the franchise brand. And that's where we can really come into handy at Visa Franchise, as well as our sister company, Vetted Biz, if you just want to subscribe and go through the data. Coffee shop, we have a lot of clients that like the idea of owning a coffee shop. It seems fun. You're able to chill, maybe work on other things. Again, easy, fun things usually don't make so much money. So you're paying $250K. You're going to live in, have the location Sunny Isles. I would imagine the rent is quite high because it's a very nice area here, Miami-Dade County. So, could you live and support your family at 86,000? Depends how you live, but it's an expensive area to be where, ideally, you'd be making a lot more than that, especially if you're like a family of four. Subway, dining system, it doesn't work with E-2 visa investors. They are closing, last I checked, 1,000 locations a year. Yeah, so I was just off. It was 1,000 locations for the last few years, and then it was a little less, 760 locations in 2023. I have heard their sales are going up, which is good. There you have it. Businesses for sale right now in Florida, November 2024, between $75,000 and $250,000. We can handle all the light accounting work, the visa work. We have our own in-house attorney. We work with filing and strategic attorneys. We have a strategic partnership with a few accounting firms. So we can do the incorporation, tax ID, business bank account, helping you get the visa, whether it's the E-2 visa or some other category. And then we do work with some business brokerage groups that we don't make any commissions. We don't make any fees. But if you're looking to go that option and buy an existing business and you're set on that, it's going to take 9 to 12 months to be able to buy the business, get the E-2 visa. And you can expect going through a lot of due diligences and having to spend money on accounting and legal fees to investigate those businesses.